everyone, it is Angelica. In today's episode, we are going to talk about the best foods for Pitta types to eat. Now, if you haven't already checked out our conscious eating habits training, that is where to start to completely transform your digestion, because Ayurveda says that 90% of how you digest your food is how you're eating. 10% is what you're actually eating, which is what we're going to go into today. So, if you have a Pitta imbalance, and again, if you're not sure what doshic imbalance you have, please look at my prior videos where you can define what dosha is out of balance for you. So you know you have a Pitta imbalance, what do you do? Well, as we know, when the Pitta is out of balance, we have too much of the fire element. We don't want to put out the fire, but we want to ground it and we want to nurture it so that it stays tamed. So in order to do that, we bring in the elements, water and earth, to ground it. Now, for some, this can be confusing because we would think that we need to bring in all the other elements that are not included in Pitta. So why wouldn't we bring in air and ether? Think of the metaphor of a campfire. And when that flame is going blazing from one side to the next, what we want to do is tame it. If we were to add air and ether, that would just completely make the flame go back and forth even more crazily than it probably already is. So water controls it and nurtures it, and earth grounds it and keeps it secure. So how can we bring the earth and the water element into our diet? Well, Ayurveda says by bringing these into our taste sense. As I mentioned in our Kapha diet video, Ayurveda is all about bringing all of our five senses back into balance. And when we heal our digestion, we are healing our taste sense in a lot of ways. There are 6 tastes in Ayurveda, and the 3 tastes that are best for healing Pitta imbalances are bitter, astringent, and the sweet taste. So I'm going to break those down. I'm first going to start the sweet taste because that one is the most, let's say, misunderstood. So the sweet taste is not cake and dessert. The sweet taste is made up of earth and white water. So think about sweet potatoes, really nourishing, earthy, but has that water quality to it. Think of more nourishing types of lettuces like spinach as opposed to something more astringent like kale. On that level, that spinach holds a lot of water in it. Think about zucchinis and spaghetti squash. A lot of these water-filled vegetables that can be really nourishing to the tissues of the body and also really building. So a lot of times that fire burns out our tissues in the body if we have Pitta imbalances. Think about inflammation, and what that water quality can do is really nurture those tissues and rebuild them to build healthy tissue there. So that is really important. Now, it's also important to bring in the bitter taste for Pittas, because bitter, it has that drying quality that can also be cooling, which Pittas need. They need the cooling. So what are good foods for the bitter taste? That's going to be all of our leafy greens. So again, spinach is a good category here where it covers the sweet taste and it also has more of that bitter quality to it. Also arugula, so bitter, right? You can actually taste it and it's so good for Pittas. It really helps to cool their fire. We can also get the bitter taste from dandelion greens and kale. All of these leafy greens are really nourishing for Pittas. And then finally, we have the astringent taste. So the astringent taste is going to be things that are more drying. Again, it looks like a lot of leafy greens. Very much kale can have that astringent, that drying quality to it. Also think of legumes. Beans can have more of that drying quality to it as well. So let's get into some examples of recipes and meals that be really healing for Pittas. So let's say for breakfast you have something like oatmeal, and oatmeal is one of those staple foods that you can have that you can make it dosha specific. So for Pittas, I would add coconut milk. Coconut, anything is super nourishing for Pittas. It helps to cool down the body, helps to cleanse the liver, and also has a lot of that sweet taste. So adding coconut and maybe even some mint to make it really fresh, and maybe you would want to make it less creamy and more astringent depending on what your specific symptoms are. Now for lunch, Pittas tend to have a strong digestion. Again, this is where you would need a practitioner to really look at where the state of your Agni is. But if you feel like you have a strong hunger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, that is a good sign. That means Agni is strong, which means digestion is most likely strong. And to what pittas can really digest well is raw food. So salads with spinach and the dandelion grains, but also with avocado. Avocado is such a good nourishing and has a lot of the sweet taste to it, has that water quality to it, and it can also help to cleanse the liver. What also pittas can have are smoothies. So I know a lot in Ayurveda, we want all of our food to be warm. Again, with your practitioner, seeing where Agni is, but if Agni is strong enough, you can incorporate more things like smoothies into your diet because your digestion is strong enough to digest it. So smoothies that have really that sweet fruits like mango and banana, one of my favorite smoothies, and I love adding spinach to it and a little bit of cilantro. Cilantro is also really cooling for pittas. That is one of my ideal meals to have. And let's see, something for dinner. So basmati rice can be really grounding and also sattvic, which is good for pittas. Pittas need more of that cooling nature in them. And something like a rice bowl. So if you had rice and beans, the Ayurveda version of this is khichdi, which is a mix of dal and basmati rice. And then you can make khichdi any way you'd like it, meaning you can put whatever vegetables you like. I personally love, as a fellow pitta who's always trying to tame her pitta, I love putting Brussels sprouts. Cruciferous vegetables are really cleansing to the liver, really good for pittas. They can be harder to digest, so if you have any vata imbalances, I would listen to our vata video on what foods are best for you, but pittas tend to digest cruciferous vegetables just fine because their digestion happens to be great. So I love putting Brussels sprouts. If I want a little bit of sweetness, I put some sweet potatoes there. And especially if you're watching this when this video comes out, we're in the winter time. So all these vegetables are really in season and they're gonna feel really good in our bodies. All right, so that is my guidelines for pittas eating habits. Again, my disclaimer here, this isn't a you can't eat this and you can't eat that. I will never give you those rules. That's not what we follow at Soulful Veda. We follow divine feminine form of Ayurveda, meaning to trust your intuition. I give you the knowledge of the elements and the energetics, and then you get to validate through your own experience. So try out these foods, try out these meals, see how it works in your body. Does it tame your pitta symptoms? And that will be the true determiner of what is the best diet for you. So I want to hear what were your takeaways, what recipes are you going to be cooking up? I want to see them below. And next time we're going to go into the best diet for vatas.